nation is not a lot. But oh, what a mixture of races and culture, that's what we've got. Still no major difference of race, color, religion, or finance. It's amazing to you, I'm sure. We didn't get independence before, which means Trinidad and Tobago will always live on. Colonialism gone. Our nation is for everybody. We go follow our leaders. They always do their best. Oh yes, we want to achieve. We're going to aspire. We're bound to be a success. It is a miracle all these different people can dwell so well. You see, we are educated to love and forget hate. You know it's so. You people who are foreign, I got a message to you when you go in. Spread the word anywhere you pass. Tell the world there's a modern nation at last, which means Trinidad and Tobago will always live on. Colonialism gone, our nation is born. We go follow our leaders. They always do their best. We want to achieve myself to aspire. We want to be a success. The revenue we make from oil and fish is great, but we got cocoa and copra, banana and sugar, coconut, citrus. We may be small, but we wealthy. Pound for pound, we lead New York City. We got beaches and hotels built by the sun. Our nation is second to anyone. Where you talking? Trinidad and Tobago will always live on. Colonialism gone. Our nation is born. We go follow our leaders. They always do their best. In order to achieve, you got to aspire, and we bound to be a success. You may not believe this, but we did achieve this with flood of blood. It is real, just like Papa Cipriani and the doctor, they fight for what is right. So now I'm congratulating all our leaders from the present back to the beginning. They have fought, now the battle is won. Thanks for a good job, and well done everybody. Trinidad and Tobago will always live on. Colonialism gone, our nation is born. We go follow our leaders. They always do their best. In order to achieve, I know we got to aspire, and we bound to be a success.
Yes, indeed. Of course, a pleasant good night to all at Sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are streaming on the World Wide Web. A pleasant good day to you. Yes, this is, of course, the Corridor Transformation. Your host, Lennox Smith. Joshua will not be with us tonight. He has some studies that he has to catch up on, and we thought, of course, it would be much more prudent, much more wise, much more sagacious that he do that, because of course he has much more time. He's only 10 years of age, and one expects that of course time will favor him, as opposed to me. Of course, I have to come on because not only am I the progenitor or the originator or the genesis of this entire corridor transformation experiment or exercise, but of course I will, by all chronological, biological features and factors, I will depart before, of course, him. Right? This earth I'm talking about. So that being as it may, we have, of course, a program for you, and my irateness, my irascibility, my apoplectic disposition. Yes, a big word, but apoplectic disposition. Yeah, I mean, avex too bad, in other words. Because it continues. You see, I was appalled. I was incensed. I was disappointed. But here it is, Marcel. I saw a video recently where, of course, he invited the minister, the current minister of Works, Julian John, Honorable, to, of course, visit his community, his what I consider to be his stomping ground, Betham. I understand that he has left there now, but so he has joined the ranks of absentee Laventilians. Well, in this case, with greater specificity, absentee Bethamarians, if you want to call it that, a subset of Laventil, of course. But the point I am making here, in my observation of that, he invited, of course, the minister to come and see drains and other infrastructural issues that is plaguing not just that area. One can replicate that in other parts of the constituency, but I suppose that is where he was born and grown, and therefore, of course, one expect that you are going to see about your home first before you see about anywhere else. You focus on your own before you dance abroad, so to speak. But the fact of the matter is this, that dancing abroad here is a relative term, and maybe one that is, when you look at where I am going, has to be an asinine one. You see, because he is the parliamentary representative for Laverton West, and therefore to carve out just the beatum for attention in itself, of course, is at a minimum examination discriminatory. But let's say that he's making an attempt. He may start in Beatum and end up maybe in Chumakak, on the hill, Despoli Crescent, etc. And of course, yesterday, you had this killing right on Duncan Street, next to not too far from the police station called Besson Street. But let's go to the line, boy. People ain't give me a chance to expatiate, but that's all right. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor. Let me just make sure that we are set here. I know that we sometimes have to make some adjustments on the mic. Yeah, all right. Let me just make some adjustment on
I'm
the
hearing
mic.
you loud and clear.
Right. You are hearing me now? Yeah, all right. I'm hearing
Yeah,
you loud
yeah.
and clear now. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That tune you play for opening your program, that is the Dogla?
That is what?
If that was the Dogla, the
Nah, that was
Calypsonian.
Mighty Sparrow.
Yeah, sure, that was the Mighty Sparrow boy. All right, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Mighty Sparrow, man. Mighty Sparrow. I deliberately took that because there are other pieces I want to play with respect with that he performed. Go ahead.
Right, you had to play Orlando Octave too. No, let me talk to you about the Port of Spain or Lavantel West, that is Marcel. And he had
Marcel,
a
yes, Marcel.
And, and he
Well,
had a CPAP gang, so why didn't carry them to clean up whilst he had the CPAP contract? And I'm sure he had a CPAP contract, right? So he had people available to do it, but never mind. I want to continue. I've been raising this issue all over the place since it was raised in Parliament with the Honorable David Naked and the perpetrator of the heinous crime of Akil Chamber.
yes.
And this is my perspective on it.
Uh-huh.
As a country and as a
Uh-huh.
government,
Yeah.
a previous government, we spent a lot of money to hide the deeds of PNM perpetrators. Look,
Mm-hmm.
for example, the Clico issue,
Yeah.
28 billion. And at the end of it, we found out that a former treasurer of the PNM was a main man, a former Poyaman Attorney General. As the Attorney General say, colluded with a couple of people, one of them a house in Barbados, etc. That the CIB Pico Investment Bank thing. So we spend a lot of money, 28 billion of taxpayers' money, plus all the lawyers' fees trying including the Clico lawyers.
Right.
Now, that is one set of money, right? The
Yes.
second set of money is going after the perpetrators as it is alleged, the Piaco thing, a set of PNM was involved, two PNM, Kwaitong and Russ Loggins. Now, we spent a lot of money. Absent-minded Attorney General went and lined affidavits. 30 million was frittered away, taxpayers' money. Look at money there. We pull the these are the ones come to mind. The Malcolm Jones, right?
Right. Yes.
All of those people we try to defend, try to hide, are PNM operatives, right?
Yes.
No, the crux of my point is people are apologizing up front. And I'm using the term a little black boy. You hearing me?
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah. Loud and clear. Yes.
A little black boy who came from a poor family by the name of Akil Chambers. Are you hearing me or we
Loud
get
and clear.
well?
Loud and clear. Go ahead. Go
Akil,
ahead. I'm doing some other work as
right.
well.
Akil,
Yeah.
yeah. Akil Chambers from a poor family.
Uh-huh.
We don't spend any money to find out who the ring is, who the perpetrators are. And
Uh-huh.
that is why I said I want a privileged committee being established. I want them to take Naki to the privileged committee so
Mm-hmm.
we could find out all the perpetrators of this. We know what's going to lead us to the pedophile national movement. Now,
Yes.
why I juxtapose it with cost? In the privilege committee,
Uh-huh.
everybody uh, will be given a chance to come forward with the information, and it
Right.
is the cheapest and most efficient way to get this investigation going. Let us help the boy and his family bring closure, and let us nail the people who responsible for that heinous kind. We
Mm-hmm.
all know who Naked said, so it has to have, birds of a feather line together. So it's bound to
Yes.
have people right around him. And I've also said the former prime minister, the young man, his first cousin, second cousin with the same surname was a key witness. So why can't we not solve the case, bring the perpetrator to justice?
Right.
I'm very passionate about this, and I go on, and I hope I haven't upset anybody listening to your program. I
Yeah,
go
you
on.
my
Have a
friend.
nice night.
Well, I don't think so. If they are objective and very sincere to themselves, I don't think they will be. Let's. I think somebody else is trying to get in. No, 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 not yet. All right. Let me just get this. Let me just dismiss this call. All right. So, right. Yeah, one or two little technical things that I know out why we are going ahead, so you'll forgive me. All right, so but the line is open, and of course people can call in at this point in time. Let me go back to where I was, and that is that Marcel now is asking the Minister of Works to come into his community and address some infrastructural issues. Well, I'm saying that to me, he and his colleagues have put these communities into double and triple jeopardy. Because you see, if the Zoso project was supported by them, and the fact that Zoso would have provided after 5 days of declaring a particular community, which of course we knew Laventil, Beetham, Sealat, etc., would have been, East Port of Spain, would have been declared as also area, a zone of what? Of special operations. It means that 5 days after the declaration, a development committee, a community development committee would have had to be put in place, comprising, among others, representative of some of the major, or if not all of the major impacting ministries on areas like those or these. Let me repeat, representative from every single impacting ministry, government, would be on this committee. Understand that. In 5 days' time. In 5 days. And it includes, according to the bill and therefore the legislation, if they, Marcel and others would have supported it, Marcel himself, or he could have sent a representative, he, Scotland, Stuart Young, and the fella, he's so innocuous in terms of his amorphous presence. The fella who won the elections, I don't know how, in Laventille, East Morvan. But the fact is that these representatives would have been on that ZOSO community developmental entity or committee alongside serious governmental institutions, ministries, whether the Ministry of Social Development, the Ministry of Community Development, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, and we can go on and on, would have had representation on that particular committee. And let me tell you how serious the Kamala Prasad Bisasa administration is. I ain't saying was, is. They would have given, just as how you see a number of persons getting their instruments of appointment on boards across the country. They too would have gotten instruments of appointment on that committee. And whether I would have been one or not, but I can tell you, my impact will have not been muted or neutralized at all, because I would have wanted, of course, to make my presence felt, whether on that committee directly or indirectly, simply because it got the force of law for the first time. That was something I have been advocating for some time now. You see, because one of the experiences I would have had utilizing all of my, or most of my, what I consider to be adult life in focusing on places like Laventille, Beetham, Sealats, and so on, communities like these, is that over and over, one of the issues with respect to officialdom or those ministries where you would approach from time to time, even in the private sector, but I'm dealing with government here, because they have a mandate enshrined in that ZOSO bill to focus on those communities that would have been designated as a ZOSO. Understand that. I heard people saying that they didn't know. Well, if you didn't know, I assure you that the parliamentary representatives whose duty it was not only to tell you, and let's assume no, they didn't tell you, but to know of the benefits to be derived, as how we are explaining here. And I think last time we spoke, I did in fact get a copy of the ZOSO bill, and section 25 outlined that in its entirety and complexities, and at the same time simplicity. Yeah. These vipers, these evildoers have done it again, neglecting and putting, of course, some extraneous amorphous agenda at the top and on the front burner, and leaving, of course, the people of these communities behind once again and on the back burner. because they want to be in power. They want to be where Kamala is. They want to be where the ministers current are. They want to be, of course, where the UNC is. They want to be where the coalition is. These vipers. And that kind of slash and burn politics must be rejected. No government in the world can satisfy at the same time, simultaneously, all the needs and wants of a society. More than that, because resources are scarce, just as money, you have to prioritize, and you have to give priority, in other words. And while the intention may be to spread it as thin as possible and as broad as possible and reach everybody, all will not be satisfied at the same time. So today, some people are disappointed, yes, but tomorrow a different story, as they too would have been brought into the grid of satisfaction because of delivery. I have no doubt in my mind, because I am part of that makeup. I am part of that structure called the government by virtue of my party's involvement, love in the coalition of interests, which of course united, coalesced, and contested the elections of 2025, April 28, and was overwhelmingly successful. So I can say without fear of contradiction that whilst you may be disappointed now, in the fullness of time, with the expanding of opportunities, resources being augmented and garnered, it is just a matter of time. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to you, Uncle Lennox, and to all your listeners. Share it live, share it live. Tell one another that Uncle Lennox is up and running.
Yes, man.
Uncle Lennox, I think with your number of years on earth, your abattoir of knowledge, I think it surpassed Karim Marcel in his brightest hour. You know? Yeah.
I mean.
So
you shouldn't even go and compare it, because that's chalk and cheese. I mean, he's a neophyte. He's a little fella just wetting his feet and so on, and of course pretending to be a big man. But of course, that typical PNM force, right? But have no ability to deliver anything of substance. And of course, one of the things that he should have part connection with is voting on that Zoso bill. He would have been seeing what I am seeing. But clearly that is part of the myopia and the quest for unmerited power that the PNM believe somehow that Trinidad and Tobago belong to them, but now they are out of office handsomely in Trinidad and in Tobago. But go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, so now you see, in life, right? It has some children grow up faster than they have to and take responsibility and to the mantle of breadwinner. And has some just grow up before the time to play this man, but without life experience and learning the true value of life. So once again, the Lavantil people that he represented in his constituency, the first thing he do when he get the opportunity, he take flight and he leave the same area that a government see that to help them people and pull them out of poverty and stigmatize it, stigma, right?
Yes.
But he take flight and he run from that stigma. So in other words, a slave is loyal to his master than his own brothers and sisters in the barracks. So when he do that kind of thing, that's to show you that the political entity he riding on, the donkey horse he riding on, They don't really care about the people and the supporters. Because if that fella did really care, he would have got a Foster Cummins and asked Foster Cummins all them contract he get, right? By way of soul and bidding, right? To help these. But you see now, when he forget that when he was debated in Parliament, is the black man will be stigmatized. You will the shame to have an address and have until because it comes with stigmatizing them that they change their address. I have a family that they went to and had to go and change their address. That is the kind of to have the same vulnerable and put equality across the board. Eh? So that is how Scotland on the other side, the next restaurant up the hill, right? They don't care about nothing because them is the areas, the whole world, except the PNM and Penelope because of them know about the criminal element inside it. The whole world know there, no? But right now, and she members, they know that her criminal activity is going in the same constituency they represent. So you see now, it's still next year is a general election coming. So they really care about the people and the fight of the people. So the leader there to suffer and don't really tell them, right? But you see now, a caring government with a track record like the United National Congress and our esteemed political leader, the most honorable Ms. Kamala Prasad Bisesa SC, right? She governed with equality. And this is what she know under the PNM. And she doing things and putting bills and legislation by put it on the book that people like Rowley, when they come back in power anytime in the future, never ever again to suppress the African diaspora in this country. And she has saving the African people from themselves and the entity they choose by the democratic right to follow. Right? And this is what gives birth and human service to your organization. Because you've seen what they really need in the area. Right? That's what make you get up and give this human service and service. Because you know all them want is a little opportunity and somebody to show them the door. Right? So you understand how much I need to show you?
Yes. The caller that was calling, call back. I want to take you on the system itself. Mr. Faizabad is, I'm sure, winding up at this point. Go ahead. You wind up? All right, okay. So here, Mr. Faizabad has taken the cue and has wound up. But of course, I want to disabuse because there is this argument. Let's go to the line. I want to address that before I continue with my original discourse. But go ahead, caller.
Yeah, pleasant good night, Uncle. And
Good night to you, my friend. Yes.
A special good night, the Honorable Prime Minister. You know, I follow your program and thing a lot, and I used to follow you on the Gong Report on the other station and thing a while and things. So you know, we get a lot of knowledge from you and thing now.
Okay.
But I want to say something tonight.
Go ahead.
I want to say something tonight. Right? We are to call a spade a spade. Right? I support this government in the last election, yeah, in the general election. Right? And my personal take on this situation with this police killing in St. Augustine.
Uh-huh.
You see the comments were made by the Homeland Security Minister. Nothing was good at all the public at large, I think. And I feel a gentleman should replace and give some other portfolio.
All right. Tell me. I am a bit confused.
That's my take on it.
No problem. But I'm a bit confused because he has made several statements, some of which, of course, ridiculous, some ludicrous, some has some veracity. But let me hear the statement that you are concerned about. Yeah.
The statement where he made after the video circulate, right?
What he said in your words. Yeah, in your words.
In a summary, it displays about how the video leaked from a certain network now, right? From a certain crime boss now.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't get glean of that. So thanks very much. But go ahead. Yeah.
Right, and he said it must have laws now to deal with these kind of people who leaking these videos and things now.
Oh, I see.
Right?
I see. Yes. Okay.
Right. And he's supporting the commissioner of police.
Oh, I see.
On his statement and all too, which was real out of touch, I should say, in a layman term. Right?
No, it's an appropriate term because I saw it too.
Let me call a spade a spade.
Out of touch with the reality that we saw. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. So that's my take on it. I support this government, but you see that issue. I mean, the police service is an independent institution, right? I don't know if the Honorable Prime Minister could try to do something about that police service commission, especially with this latest incident here, because when I listen to some other, I listened to Mr. Weatherhead spoke on our podcast, and the Honorable Mr. Martin George, right, prominent criminal attorney, right, and I guess some more light because the PCA, I was mentioning the PCA, how they have no powers to really force some kind of disciplinary or even criminal proceedings against officers who find themselves on the wrong side of the law.
Yes,
but
yes.
What they highlighted now is the Police Service Commission supposed to hold the commissioner accountable.
Yes.
And that's not happening. And from since the big fiasco with the DCP and the commissioner, the former commissioner, and that whole thing, right? And nothing going on like that police service, the executive is a madhouse. So this incident with the police killing had to be front burner in Brazil after it I think was before the World Cup. In Brazil, they were trying to do some kind of cleanup and thing and with them criminal and thing because they was getting to host the World Cup. And then police and them went hard and thing and they kill a set of people and thing. And they cry out to human rights and all kind of thing. Now, what happened now with that now? The police and them set the video footage, all the police operation. You could go on YouTube and you could get all them police operation live from in Brazil. Hardcore. All hardcore. Right? So no police officer shouldn't find no problem at wearing no body cam because that is for you now to make your case easier. If you're doing your work correct, that is to make your case easier. You understand? That whatever you're doing, you're going to have accountability for what you're doing. But if you're not on the right side of the law, where does it have to hide? You understand what I'm saying?
And
this thing had to be front burner.
Yeah, that is the argument.
Right?
That is the argument for having that because it is an objective way of determining and accounting
that is
for the actions
evidence
that
gathering
may be in a particular situation that may be questionable. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like for evidence gathering for them when they go before the court, they will have
Yeah.
proper evidence
Yeah.
to make their case easier.
That's right.
You understand? But apparently they're not studying that. They want to do other things contrary, right? But again, the honorable, the Homeland Security Minister, I feel she had to do something with it.
Okay.
Yeah, because the signal he's sending like is martial law now. Like he has a police state.
Yeah.
You understand? So that is
Yeah.
my contribution tonight.
Yeah. Thanks very much, of course, for enlightening me, because I didn't get a grasp of the entirety of the rationale for the calling for the dismissal of Alexander, the Minister of Homeland Security. And I think that is something that has to be examined. If it is a poor statement, if it is a statement that is so egregious, so insensitive, then of course it is justified for persons to be calling for his head, so to speak. Because he ought to have known as a minister, he is no longer a police officer. And even in the case of a police officer, as we have seen the commissioner finding himself in hot water, he has to be much more frugal and much more sagacious and much more tempered and much more sensitive to the totality of the circumstance, inclusive of the relatives of the victims, whether it be the prospective perpetrator or the on the side of the police officers. Because just imagine, you don't expect the commissioner of police, for example, to say, well, he feel it for the victim who was on the wrong side of the police bullets, and don't mention, of course, that of the police as well, who claim to have been fired upon. So you understand that there is a very sensitive and very tenuous and a very, what I consider to be, lean option or situation, that if you do not find the right formula, you find yourself in hot water, just as the commissioner of police. Because from every ounce of that video, every pixel of that video, no way could the statement see what you didn't see what transpired prior, when that was the terminus, that was the final act, where the young man lost his life, and the glaring, conspicuous, irrefutable actions of the three police officers or two police officers in, of course, causing that young man to lose his life. You have to be careful. And I suspect they are attempting to do a lot of what I consider to be introspection, revision, and damage control. But no, the damage control option has already jettisoned. It's out the window. It has flown. It's flying. It's out of the box. Therefore, it will be very difficult to of course, rein in that. But let's see how it pans out. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good evening, Lennox. One thing with this whole thing,
Ah.
the PM have to watch her back, because these police, they're acting just like previous, like they're still in the previous government.
Uh-huh.
Everybody is picking up for everybody. Nobody is standing out to say we denounce this. Everybody is it just seems so ridiculous. And all these people, man, I don't understand what's going on. There's a lot of killing that is like we're in America, white against black. So what they're doing is crazy. when you look at what's going on. And then you talk about it now, and they're reprimanding the public to be quiet because an investigation is going on. This is kind of ridiculous. And nobody has nothing good to say. But the prime minister, to me, needs to watch her back. Who knows, they might be setting her up to fall. Okay? Have
I
a
hear
good
you.
night.
Same to
Have a
you.
good
Same,
night.
same to you.
Thank
Out of
you.
an abundance of caution. Thank you very much for your
Exactly,
contribution. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you for that intervention. And the point I was at when, of course, the various callers came and made their contributions, I picked up on one of the issues that the Law Association, the independent senators, the PNM senators were saying, the question of stigmatizing areas as a consequence of being designated ZOSO, being a ZOSO area. That could be as asinine, dunderheaded, ignorant. And ignorant here means, of course, lack of knowledge, and certainly disconnected with what happens in those communities. And I say so without fear of contradiction and with a high degree of authority. I'm surprised that, of course, Marcel will be, of course, engaging and giving, of course, credence or agreement or support for that argument. You see, these areas have already been stigmatized. And it has international, not just connotations, but recognition as well. In all of the advisories against Trinidad and Tobago, telling their citizens whether they are from the United States, Europe, and any other part of the globe, is that, listen, do not come to Trinidad. But if you do, don't go to Laventille. Yeah, etc., etc. Don't go on Nelson Street. Found themselves in an international advisories for the world to examine, know, and understand and acknowledge. What the hell you telling me about stigmatization? That is what I consider to be an amorphous and narrative of the total and absolute ignoramus. Persons who simply do not know. But I want to go further on this point because, you see, it is not new to me. That issue of stigmatization is not new to me. You see, I have been in several situations that would have had the opportunity to discuss the whole question of stigmatization. Let me give you the first one. Let me go back a bit. When we invited the then Prime Minister, A.N.I. Robinson, to Laventille on the launch of what we eventually called and executed the Mobile Laventille Improvement Organization multiple programs. I say multiple because people say that we act as though we are government. We dealing with education. We dealing with sports. Marlon Blacks, the West Indian pace bowler who made a good life and earnings in England eventually, came from our program. Yeah. We dealt with infrastructure when the Beetham Phase 4 had all of these steel projections up in the sky, and the people were calling for at least a little space to recreate, whether it's football or small goal, of course, or that of basketball. We took the welding class from where it was located on the compounds of Fernandez compound, that industrial estate where we occupied our warehouse. And we deployed that class down to Beetham to cut out those projecting steel so as to make the surface amenable for young people to run and recreate. Yes, that is what we did. And when the question of the environment came up, we launched on the greens, or the Barber Green, I should say, in the Queen's Park Savannah several years ago, our environmental enhancement initiative. And we were part and parcel of beautifying the various highways and along Beetham and other parts of these communities. And even when in the aftermath of the 1990 coup, the same welding class and the carpentry class was deployed to weld back, to rebuild the businesses that were destroyed from Mova Junction in Mova to all the businesses along the Eastern Main Road, right down to the citrus growers, right down. Yes, indeed. That's what we did. We were called a government by ourselves. You see, I am making this point and explaining to you because I was hoping that the Zoso initiative would have materialized, because that is the missing link to the multiple, multifaceted, multidimensional issues that have caused the stigmatization. Yes, Marcel, yes, all of you independent senators, yes, all of you PNM parliamentarians who plain only don't know. All of them plain only don't know. Only because only want to be where Kamala Prasad Bisesa is and the present ministers of government. Come on, that is a betrayal. We understood it. And when there were, of course, persons that were on substance abuse, chemical dependent, whether it's marijuana, whether it be cocaine, we would engage on the compound itself as part of what is called, most schools will call it, of course, an exercise to be out of the compound and venture into other areas. But we discussed the matter intensively. And when there were known pipers, as we call them, or known substance abuse or dependent individuals, we will go and not only assist in terms of talking to them and counseling, but we will go and see what they have done to themselves and their properties and so on, taking out the windows, taking out, of course, the toilets and so on, to go and sell in order to satisfy their addiction. And the purpose of that is to let the young people know you should not go that route, because that route is total and absolute destruction. It is the devil incarnated or manifested. We did all of that. Right here, right now on George Street, I must have signed over 100 recommendations already. There, we wrote thousands of recommendations to young people, members of the community, across the demographic. Yeah, we did all of that. I think it was Prime Minister Robinson, who said we function as a government, but so broad, so deep, so high, so wide is the problem that we had to take a multi-pronged approach, a multifaceted approach, multidimensional approach in order to solve the problem. And let me tell you this, that if we did not make that intervention in over those many years or decades, over 3 decades, 30 years, the situation in these communities would have been worse, particularly in Laventille. I can focus upon and talk with authority. Yeah, that is just some anecdotal evidence as to the fact. Marcel can't tell you about that. He would have been a beneficiary of those efforts, including, of course, the basketball court that we created out of the presence of a welding class within the ambit of the training system of the Mova Laventille Improvement Organization. Yeah, I think the creme de la creme is when, after applying for and suggesting, we were given the authority to clean the Red House after the 1990 coup. And don't get me vexed before I indicate to you where you go find the information, You will find the information, let me tell you anyway, you'll find the information in the report of the Commission of Inquiry into the 1990 coup, in that section where they talked about special medals for organizations that made the contribution in the aftermath of the 1990 coup. And you will see among the only, let me repeat, the only government institutions, whether it be the fire service, whether it be the army, whether it be the police, you will see inside of there the only non-governmental entity they recommend for a special medal is MLIO. Mova Laventille Improvement Organization. I sit here proudly. So where these individuals were and where they are is the most egregious and the most harmful and the most toxic conduct in the day, not supporting the Zoso. And if they had a modicum of what I know and understand, they would have supported it in spite of their political difference, because there must be a time when the point of political antagonism, political conflict and contradictions must now be converted to coalescing and cooperating in the interests of the population and the electorate that would have expected them to do their best for them as they advance and as they express and interact in their respective communities. Let us not waste time. We have wasted too much time, and therefore the Zoso, not that it would have been a panacea, but it would have been a major plank on which people like myself can now, of course, advance and advocate for governmental intervention, because it was legally sanctioned in accordance with the eventual act or the bill that was before the parliament, that was defeated by a group of myopic, a group of self-serving, a group of megalomaniac individuals who were only concerned about power. And in the case of the independent senators, let me add that it was all about ego, that I's boss and I could show them that we could fail the bill. That's what that was all about. He said, what? Stigmatization, my foot. And of course, indeed, in terms of constitutional rights, There were more constitutional rights violation in the SOE. Notice when the SOE was over, they had to, of course, those persons who were in custody under the SOE after the 31st of January had to be released if they were not charged. Well, in the case of the bill, the Zoso bill, the same persons could have been arrested, yes, but they would have been subjected to the judicial safeguards and the judicial examination under normal circumstance, and not keeping them there for so many hours or so many days, as the case may be, without, of course, any kind of what I consider explanation. The police had to justify as if it was in normal circumstance. Today, for example, police can't come into place without the relevant authorization, and you are entitled to bail. There is no special tribunal or no special committee set up to see whether or not the arrest was justifiable or not. You are closer, of course, to more, but more importantly, the criminal elements would have been targeted, would have been isolated, and for 180 days, we would have been able to talk to each other, interact, devise mechanisms for the ultimate period of peace on a sustained basis. The businessmen would have been looked after. The people who would have been in need, dire need of simple things like food cards and so on, would have been dealt with. People with housing accommodation problems and probably want to move out as a result of whether they had confidence in the system or not, would have had that option. In other words, multiple focus would have been from a government perspective on that, and they had to spend the blasted money right there. That is what Marcel and they did to us. Avoid that from happening. Deprive us of that. And I must feel sorry for them, or in any way not to express my total and absolute irascibility and deep concern as to the sanity of these people. Yeah, they had to be mad. Again, if you didn't know that exists in the bill, they would have known, and they deliberately defocused, or put another way, they did not pay attention to that, because you will have, if they had focused on it at all, you would have had second thoughts. Why the hell these people in have a Zoso coming here as quickly as possible so we could deal with the gangs, we could deal with the sixers and the sevensers and the eighters, we could deal, of course, with cordoning off certain areas, and get of course the law-abiding elements and those who are in abject need of assistance, get it to them, whether they are senior citizens who have reached the age of pension but can't leave their premises because there's a young person to take them out, and if that young person only come out of their community, they could find themselves on the wrong side or the opposite side of a bullet. Yeah, that is what happens. Understand that. That is what Marcel and them did to us. To us. And maybe I should find, of course, that part of the bill. Let me find the bill. Let me find the bloody bill. It's about time we tell these people where to get the hell off our necks over the years. And Marcel is just a recent addendum. As I said, he was inviting the Minister of Works to do the things that we would have been able to do ourselves and insist and get it done, because the same minister would have had representative on that community development committee, and therefore that representative or the minister would have had to respond to us as a ZOSO area. And listen to what it says. I'll tell you what it says. Social Transformation Committee, it is called. And I mark that because I have an A and a B. And in B it says, the member of parliament of the constituency within which the zone is, or if the zone is located in 2 or more constituencies. So that is why I talked about Marcel, I talked about the fella in Mova, I talk about Church Young, and I talk about, of course, the fella right around here, and that is, of course, Scotland. So if it's more than 1 or 2, the members of parliament of the constituency or their nominee must be on this social transformation committee. It's be there. That's what this did. And just in case you figured that the government was making joke, and as the prime minister had that responsibility, let me just take a note of that. Let me just give it to you. The prime minister's function with respect to this committee right, and this is instructive. This is, of course, 3 on the question of chairman and deputy chairman. In the absence of the chairman, right, we have a deputy, no problem there, right, but publication. The names of the members of the committee, that transformation committee, the names of the members of the committee as first constituted, and every change in the membership of the committee shall be published in the Gazette, the government newspapers, just as how every chairman and member of any board in this country, public board, had to be put in the Gazette, the Trinidad government's newspapers. That is, you can't be more official than that. Can't be more official than that. It goes on to talk about when the committee should meet and all of that. But I'm really looking for the provision of the instruments of appointment, because it's no different to a board appointee, whether chairman, whether it be member of the board. Same. It shows that it has official and solid legal force. The first time. Let me see if I can get it here. If not, I'll bring it the next day because I didn't plan to use it tonight. Yeah, look at here. Appointment, under appointment. That's under section 25 of the bill. It says appointment. The members of the committee shall be appointed by the prime minister by instrument in writing. Oh God, Marcel, it have a special place in hell for all you boy. I say Marcel and his colleague vipers, including the independent senators, all they didn't see this. All they didn't understand the role and responsibility of that committee and how far-ranging and wide the parameters and the terms of references. All they didn't see that. Let me tell you again, let me read again, under appointment 2.1. The members of the committee shall be appointed by the prime minister by instruments in writing. And of course, those names will go into the government newspaper, the Gazette, just like any chairman of any state board, whether it be UDICOT, whether it be Eastport of Spain, or whether it be HDC, same damn thing. And you're saying that the government is not serious? You know what that means? That means for a fellow like me, that is music to my ears, because I am seeing if they do not deliver, I have legal recourse. I could complain to the judiciary. I could complain to the courts. In other words, I could complain to the ombudsman. For the first time, we would have had that kind of leverage and that kind of option scuttled by these people who say that they love us. Well, brother man and woman, if it's so all you love us, I don't want to be loved by all you. I don't want to be loved by all you. It is not like if you're saying if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. No. Because that is hate upon hate upon hate upon hate upon hate. That's what that is. How dare you people sully the singular option after decades of grappling with this crime situation in communities like these, and you yourself having the opportunity to put your signature and put your name indelibly etched in history to give people like myself who have been working assiduously without the resources of the state and assistance in most cases, and you come and do that? You come and do that, boy? Yes, people. Yes. That is what they scuttled. That is what they deprived us of. That is what they selfishly and self-gratifyingly and for the purpose of power, and somebody talked about that on the ground report today, about power. And of course, if you had more people in the parliament, etc., and my argument is that that is pure wishful thinking. The reality is that we have a constitution that says how many people must be there. 41 in the lower house and 36 in the 36 in the upper house. Either 36 or 31, somewhere there. Don't vex with me if, of course, I may have it wrong. I think it's 31 in the upper house. Yeah. 9 independent senators declared by the president, 15 government senators, and 6 opposition senators. So that should give you around 31. The point I am making is that this is a serious piece of legislation. Never before. But music and, of course, visionary. And I've always said that this reminds me, even though it was to a lesser extent, vastly lesser extent, when the same UNC, when they were in government between 2010 and 2015, said to the people in these parts, listen, I'm going to give you the apartments, the AGC apartments that you occupied for many generations. I'm going to give it to you for $100. And Eulalie James at the time, who was the parliamentary representative before this incompetent, impotent Scotland, tell the people because they brainwash them, they saturate them with all kinds of negatives as we are seeing now. Don't believe that those attempts at ultimate ridiculing the government, whether it be the mission of the Joshua gentleman who got killed by the police, whether it be the raider in Tobago, whether it be the comments by the Prime Ministers recognizing that it's also a fail and say, listen, I am not going to give up. I am going to pursue relentlessly. And some of the what they consider to be acrid statement, none of which could meet the acridity or the acidity of Rowley and some of his cohorts, Hines and others. None of it. You ever heard, of course, Kamala Prasad Bisesa or any of our government members talk about, give misogynic statements as Rowley? Golf course. I'm not your man. I can't tell you who to take. Young girls as hyenas in a African jungle. I know what banana mean. It's for monkeys, that gorilla of a former prime minister. I know what it mean. And trying, of course, to get sympathy so as to stay where they are to do us evil. To do us evil. And let me tell you this, Marcelin, no. And if he does, it may be based on the modus operandi that they have to keep, to be eclectic, to be selective in terms of what they want to share with the public. Rowley, whilst he was contesting Manning, talked about, in essence, what is called affirmative action. Meaning that there's a section recognized of the community that has and is of a clear and distinct disadvantage and should be given state assistance, state buttressing, state support in order to get up and to at least be able to compete or be even. And the African community was identified at the time. And eventually, whilst the PNM was in government for all that time under Manning, he never pursued it. And when he was asked why he didn't pursue it, he said that the opposition prevented him from pursuing it. But when the opposition warned him that to postpone the local government elections for a date convenient to him and his cohorts, or should I say co-conspirators, to undermine the electoral process and to deprive you and I of the ability to vote who we want, consistent with the constitution of this country and with the general decency and understanding of how these processes work according to democratic principles. He took his minuscule or a tenuous majority, only 21 at that time, and imposed on us a postponement of the local government election. Well, the opposition did their duty then under Kamala Prasad Bisesa and went to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council said that you, Rowley, and the PNM and your cabinet try to take away the rights of the people to choose their own representative. You did that. All ain't talking that. All ain't talking that. And when you got the opportunity to level the playing field in favor of your constituents, the Diego Martins, plural, all three, Port of Spain South as a constituency, Port of Spain North, Sentence West as a constituency. I'm talking here about Short Young, the ephemeral prime minister, the temporary prime minister. Dolly in, of course, Sentence East. Marcel, Laventille West. Scotland, of course, the Port of Spain South. The other guy who seemed to be extremely amorphous and elusive, for want of a better term, failed us, and we must see them for who they are. This would have been recorded in the Trinidad government's gazette or newspaper. You would have gotten an instrument of appointment as a community development committee. Let me get the term correct so that you can regurgitate it and use your argument and to express your disapproval, your disappointment. And of course, it's called the Social Transformation Committee. Social transformation. Notice this program is called Corridor Transformation. That is why I'm here talking to you in a transformative vision and direction. Transformative vision and direction. Transformation. The things you used to do before, you'll do it no more. It requires attitudinal change. It requires, of course, a paradigm shift and not the paradigm paralysis that Marcel and they have imposed upon us, and not that we are unaware or we were not in that state. In other words, it's a continuation of the paradigm paralysis, and that the paradigm shift and the attitudinal change that is so urgently required in order for us to participate in the economic development, the social advancement, and of course the national growth of Trinidad and Tobago. You see, I have always been conscious of the strategic location of East Port of Spain, Laventille, Beetham, Sealets, etc., because we are a stone's throw from, or should I say, literally part of the capital city of Trinidad and Tobago, and the main thoroughfare and the administrative center, and where the seat of government exists. And you don't understand that this document would have given us a chance to really exploit that to the optimum, Marcel and others. Only don't understand that. And so it is debilitating. And I'm being, of course, very generous here, because the egregiousness of the crime that they have committed against the people, for an opportunity, of course, to relieve themselves, or put another way, to take advantage of the focus that Laventille and East Port of Spain and so on would have been given by this document and the contents thereof, if it was ratified by the Parliament and become law. Is unpardonable as it is unfathomable. Unpardonable as it is unfathomable. No one in the right mind would have, of course, refused this opportunity. The greater good. Otherwise, of course, the additional benefits of clamping down and of course, muting and muting the criminal elements. What more you want? And then you have all of these things. Man, look, let me just close by reading some of the advantages, some of the things that are supposed to be, we were supposed to be getting from this social transformation committee. Let me just read a few of it. Here what it says. The function of the committee, that's the function of the committee. Listen to what it says. Assess conditions within the zone, including the state of the physical infrastructure, health, environment, land tenure, housing, and settlements. Assess. Okay, assess doesn't mean action. So let's go further. That is A. B. Identify threats to sustainable development of the communities within the zone. So threats to the sustainable development. That to me also means and impacts on poor housing. That's it. That's a threat. On poor roads and tracks all over the place to access, of course, homes and so forth. Children not going to school. That's a threat. Yeah, young people unemployed and all over the place and devil finding work for these idle hands. That's a threat. Let's go to C. Develop a sustainable development plan which will include addressing issues relating to health, the environment, social improvement, infrastructural development, education, and economic development. Let me repeat for you. I will end here. It has about 4 more. But I think this is crucial because it encapsulates and captures all that is wrong or all that which is supposed to be addressed in a community like this. In East Port of Spain, Laventille, Beetham, Sealands. Develop a sustainable development plan which will include addressing issues relating to health, the environment, social improvement, infrastructural development, education, and economic development. Imagine you get on that board or that committee and you're armed with your instrument of appointment recognized in the Trinidad and Tobago government's newspaper, the Gazette. You don't want no better power opportunity than that to make decisions in your community, for your community, and literally by your community. Because let me tell you this, I don't expect any self-respecting Laventillian to be on that committee and let any representative from any one of the ministry tell them about Laventille when they ought to know. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, doctor, good night.
Good night to you, my friend.
Yeah, good night, Trinidad and Tobago. Good night, worldwide. Yeah, but doctor, keep up the good work, brother. Right? But what I already called for is for you to tell me the time tomorrow, please.
Yes, let's say around 11ish.
All right, my brother. Keep up. Okay. Yes, my brother. Keep up the good work.
No problem.
My
no
brother.
Problem. Yes. Let me conclude tonight because it's already close to 10 o'clock. I did promise that I will only give 1.5 hours, but the topic is too dear and too emotive for me to be able to justify it in 1.5 hours. So I have given it the ventilation. I've given it the consideration and attention that it deserves. And at the same time, hoping that you will understand what is at stake and express a similar antagonism to those. I'm not saying to go physical or anything. I'm not breeding or suggesting anything. But you can do so by writing your blogs, your social media platform, and highlighting these facts that were not told to you or highlighted by these self-serving nitwits, maladministrators, whose only focus and objective is to look for power. We'll talk about power in the closing stages of my presentation. But I think I should go to D as well. Because while C says, develop a sustainable development plan which will include addressing issues relating to health, the environment, social improvement, infrastructural development, education, and economic development. And I cannot, of course, leave this without, of course, focusing on the economic development part, because we did a survey some time ago to find out how many businesses, parlors, small micro businesses have left and closed down in Laventille. And I can tell you, you too will be amazed. Because you see, they operate at the micro level, they operate at the community level, and when, of course, salt run out in the house, or when, of course, they need cooking oil to, of course, finish maybe a fry bake, they run to the parlor next door. Today, in order for you to get a bottle of oil, you have to take a taxi and come down to Port of Spain in order to get a bottle of oil. Or a soft drink. So many of them closed. I am not talking about now, you know. That survey was done about about 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. $15 years ago. I'll bring a copy of it and explain and extrapolate and to glean from it. We did that. So we know. And that is because of the social conditions there that this ZOSO was supposed to address. Clamp down those young men and women who have a zest and overzealous and, of course, misplaced energy and attitude and conduct to destroy, whether they do it conscientiously, unconscientiously, but as well as because of the environment that they would have grown up in. All of those are factors that this was intended to address. And Marcel and, of course, his team of nincompoops, neophytes, freshmen. You see, Rowley, all of the old guards, just leave them in their cesspool of dotishness and incompetence and impotence, and they are like headless chickens all over the place, saying this and saying that, led by, of course, a headless individual called Penelope Beckles. Seeking power unmeritoriously. So let's go to D. What does D say? D says, recommend social interventions within the zone, including compulsory school attendance. Let me repeat, including compulsory school attendance. I'll come back to that. Areas and local improvement and urban renewal initiatives. So you notice it's one theme: education, the environment, commercial activities, education, social interventions. One team all together. Are you telling me a man like me would not have take advantage of that? This is music to any serious, forward-thinking, committed activists in these communities that would have been designated as ZOSOs. I would have expected at the end of it all, and I'm sure that Laventille will be in part, that many other communities will be bowling for Zosos to be a Zoso too when they see the focus. Because it is not a one-way street. There must be a level of reciprocal, not just understanding, but also action. I must understand what it contains and what rights I have, so I can impose it on that committee and tell them this is what the law says. This is what you have to do. You have to what? Recommend social interventions within the zone, including compulsory school attendance areas and the local improvement and urban renewal initiatives. And let me, as I am at it, let me just get E one time. And coordinate the implementation of social intervention programs by the relevant public bodies. Coordinate here presupposes that the public entity, whether it be the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Development, Ministry of Community Development, have made available to the ZOSO the services that they offer. And what this committee is intended to do by the authority of the law, if it did in fact become law, is to coordinate the implementation, the operating work. So many times we have, of course, lip service and superficialities. But in this case, it is saying coordinate the implementation of social intervention programs by the relevant public bodies. Now, whether they put it in there by accident or not is not my business. I am going to hold them accountable for this, because it talks about implementation, not just identifying the various issues, the multifaceted notice. I started with that because we know that is why I told you that MLIO was being considered a government, because of the multiplicity and the multidimensional of the socio-economic and psycho-cultural education, health and other environmental issues that these places have been plagued with for many decades, and fomented and sustained by the PNM, being in office for too damn long. And the people, some say wicked to themselves, continue to take the insult as a true crapo with a tie, with a Balize emblem or symbol, and you're gravitating as some kind of zombie. Some kind of zombie. There's some kind of unconscious, automatic, indescript, and of course, wandering individual. No, Laventil, we gave the country the National Steel Band and the National Festival, Carnival, Calypso. We did that. How the hell we cannot re-engineer socio-economic paradigms to solve the social problems in these parts? I've often said to them, if they're taking the opportunity and forget Eulalie James and take charge of those apartments that was being given to them for $100 notice, I say given to them. I don't even want to say sell to them, because it sounds like a joke. $100 for an apartment in Port of Spain. Even if you try, the person who you say are giving you it for $100 go say no. Look, I go give you at least a $1,500, because it's unbelievable. And here it is. The people in East Port of Spain, Laventil and environs got that option and denied it. Because of a uncaring, insensitive, wicked, diabolical group of individuals coalescing under a name called the PNM that has morphed into a criminal enterprise. That has morphed into a criminal enterprise. You cannot be more criminalistic than that. The denying of the people of East Port of Spain and Laventille the benefits of the Zoso bill if it would have been converted into law. Yes, I know you intellectual, so-called independent senators, I know that you're regretting now. Too late, too late. The die has been cast. And you leave people like me with the onerous, burdensome task on our own volition, commitment, and dedication to continue to struggle. It is almost as if, apart from the fact that it is Luciferian, it is devilish for you to have done that. But for us, it is a task similar to the ancient fable, if you want to call it that, Theseus. I think it was Greek mythology, in Greek mythology. Theseus, that's the king's name, who was banned to roll a stone, a rock, up a mountain, and his task would have been completed when he reached the peak. And then, of course, on his own volition, by way of gravity, the stone will descend the other side of the mountain. But guess what happened? Every time he reached the peak and say, yes, I reach, the stone miraculously or somehow slips and goes right back down the valley, and he has to start all over again. That is how I feel. That is how I feel. Well, you're wicked to do us that. That is how I feel. When we thought finally we would have gotten, of course, some legal force in order to, of course, force whatever government it is to do. And you're telling me about sunset clause? A task that requires almost half a century to clean up, having regard to the damage that the PNM did to these communities. Sunset clause, constitutional rights, stigmatization, all that kind of hogwash. That is putrid to me and poisonous, toxic for communities like these. I would have made the point earlier in conclusion. Let me conclude tonight's exercise. I would have made the point that the whole question of stigmatization, I think I have made the point that it is a farce. It is not even specious. You know, specious means that something sounding good, sounding real, but it's not so. Well, to me, I will describe that as asinine, foolish, nincompoopish. And if they really believe that, then it is figment of their very fertile, uninformed imagination. Yeah. Fertile, uninformed imagination. That's what that has to be. If you are genuine. You see, but I want to tell you a more fundamental thing. That Because to me, it connotates embarrassment and all of that because you're a part of the community. But let me tell you something. Over the years, that stigmatization or that interaction within the community because you are part and parcel of it evolve into a positive functional mechanism. A positive functional mechanism. Let me tell you how. And I warned another PNM administration under Manning when they took away the community-based grocery delivery and replace it with the so-called food card, because they say that the grocery delivery inside of the community was too undignified. People were feeling embarrassed. So it is better to give them a food card so they could go with pride and dignity and give up of the card and get in exchange for it the same grocery that they would be getting by way of distributing from within the community. They're so damn stupid. And I tell Manning that, I say, Manning, that which you from the outside believe is dysfunctional and it is unhealthy and unholy and embarrassing and so on, is functional, is positive functional or positive functionality for these communities. So he was eager to know what I mean by that, because he has been, his head was in the cloud for so long. People who come from the same place and so on, and then they start to a greater part of their adult life live the high life, and they sleep in hotels and they have the nice home, etc., etc. Well, no. That interaction, by giving an organization responsibility to distribute hampers inside of the community, whether it be a community center, whether it be a school, as the case may be, wherever, is functional and very healthy for a community like this. I'll give you some other anecdotes so you will understand, but let me deal with the food card, because the food card replaced, of course, that system. Well, let me tell all you something. When the day reach for distribution of these hampers, sponsored by the government, of course, of the day, as the case may be, the people will assemble. They will descend on the community center, and they will, of course, seeking, of course, their hamper. But it has other mutual and significant benefits by having them come together and assemble. You see, other than that, they wouldn't come together. And they must come together in order to treat with societal problems or community problems, whether it be a street light bulb blow, or whether it be a road given problems, or whether it be transportation that is relied upon by the state or by PTSC, as the case may be. It gives them an opportunity to come together. And whilst they are waiting for their food hampers, a number of things happen. Neighbors start to greet each other. They start to shake each other's hand. They will remember, of course, that somebody has a son. How is the boy going? Or how is the girl going? How much subjects has she got in school? Is she doing fine? The river and the garbage, this collectors did not collect the garbage by me yesterday, boy. All of that takes place in that environment. All the damn fools who decided to put that as food card, per se. Fools! How does that benefit the community? But let me tell you, when somebody says to his neighbor or the friend that he would have made, because remember, the neighborhood is spread over a geographic space. And of course, your street will be the people, will be on your street, you will know the people, but you may not know the people on the other streets, as the case may be, because of course, it's geographically expanded. But here what happened. Not only is there a commingling of all of them, but when somebody said, well, listen, how is the boy? And the response is this, you know, boy, he looking for a job, he just finished school, and he no work. But that person who he or she may be speaking to may have a son that just got a job. And there may be what? Openings for more. But the person who has the son or daughter that doesn't have a job don't know that. You understand the exchange of information that is crucial for that young man or young woman who doesn't have a job to get a job now, because inside of the communication, as a consequence of coming together to get a hamper, somebody gets employed. I want you to think on your own now, having regard to all of the variables that are presented, how that benefits the community. Camaraderie. The drain, they ain't collect rubbish. I know a man, I know the collector, or I know the councillor. I will call the councillor and tell him that, listen, your street needs cleaning. Maybe they forgot or whatever reason. Street light ain't working. But the person who may be given the information, street light is working, or their street light may have gone dysfunctional sometime in the past, and they pass on the information. That is what you will pass it on when you put a food card inside a grocery to the cashier and say, give me this, give me that, and that problem in the society or in the community or in the neighborhood, could that be solved by that nonsense? Can't. And let me give you a final one, just in case you figure this is by the way, or some kind of hairy-fairy amorphous eureka moment that Smith had some bright idea. It worked. I could tell you, when I was teaching Piccadilly, and they were giving $1,000 check to the parents for each child. To assist, of course, with their books and their other school equipment. Well, let me tell you what used to happen with that $1,000. You see, because I put that same argument to some people who came from well-to-do school environment, teachers like myself, and they're saying that they prefer the government implement the school book loan program. You know, they take away the $1,000 check and they start, of course, to lend you books. And because of my experience in Piccadilly and of course, my experience outside of Piccadilly, having been, of course, the founder of MLIO, I understood how the ultimate function of that $1,000 impacts on discipline. You're wondering there, you're waiting for me to say how. Impacts on discipline, impacts on the child coming to school as regularly. The more they're in the environment, the more the likelihood that they will learn, and how it impacts on the general disposition and attitude of the child. You want to know how that $1,000 did it? Well, let me tell you now. usually the parents feel obligated and maybe most times make a promise to the child. I'll buy a new sneakers for you. I'll buy a new shoe for you. I'll buy some clothes with the same $1,000. No, the $1,000 is not for that. But that is how it evolved into, or it metamorphosized into, and why it became a social control tool is because when mommy or daddy say, listen, I'm not going for that $1,000 because you didn't do well in school, no shoes for you. I ain't going for that money. You're not going to school, I ain't going for the money. You can't be going to school and want the money and don't go to school and learn your work. And the teachers have a better chance of delivering the material. Ah, you seen it now. Only experience could tell you that. That is no textbook. And those fellas who have children coming from well-to-do communities and in their school, they would prefer the loan book arrangement. But yes, I agree. The disadvantage here is this, that the children may not have all of their school books and all of their uniform, etc. But as far as I'm concerned, the benefits to be derived in terms of discipline and the ability to inculcate and the peace that the teacher will have to deliver, and mommy having some control and daddy having some control home of the child because of that $1,000, I think it is a fair exchange. And of course, the school, like in my class, for example, if a fella comes to school with something that is not part of the uniform, but he explains, well, that is all we have, or he comes with an excuse, I accept. But I'm showing you how that $1,000 became a tool of social intervention, of social control, because you can't be them. Mommy can't be them either. So that became the flog strap. Yeah, that $1,000 became the flog strap. It was stupid for them to change it and say, we go lend them books. Yeah, what happened with that lend books thing? Children who already are not inclined, they don't have a history in the family of academic reception and tolerance and discipline. They simply stop coming to school. They simply run away from school. They simply come in late, etc. Yeah. So I was not surprised when over 1,500 of the so-called students who were at home because of COVID, the system can't find them up to now. About 2,000 of them can't find them, and what I could bet you, most of them would come from communities such as this. If the $1,000 thing was still available to them, I could bet you bottom dollar they're finding themselves in school, and they would have done much better because of the ability of that $1,000 to generate an attitude, because they need, because of that $1,000 attitude. For some it may sound like small money, but for those communities, you see what the lack of CPEP and URP has done in these parts. Businessmen are balling, because that is what used to buy the Sunday chicken and the dasheen and the eddos and the plantain and so on. Fella met me the other day, Saturday, he sell pork at the corner of Prince and George Street. If you have the time and you're willing and you want to risk, come there and you'll get nice pork. So I'm advertising for him already. But here he tell me, around 7 o'clock, I gone over by my favorite watering hole on Prince Street. And he say, just Just a couple months ago, I would have sell out already by 3 o'clock. Look at here, still 7 o'clock in the night. 7 o'clock in the night. And that's because of the lack of liquidity in the community, because of the absence of these programs. And I accept there may be some fiscal and corrupt issues, but one day I will speak as to how I feel the situation should have been handled. If it is only to get rid of the corrupt elements therein, I'll talk about it sometime. But just making the point of the symbiotic relationship between school, home, the commercial community, and those who are prepared, of course, to engage in business, and how detrimental it would be when these little, for some, they see it as innocuous, but for this community, it is gigantic. So you understand my anger and my hatred for these people who would have voted against the Zoso bill that could have been a partial, if not total, panacea for these communities. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow morning on the Gong Report. I trust that tonight's exercise would have, of course, delivered to you something that you just did not know and thought possible, but also that it edifies and that you will share it with others. Have a wonderful one. Don't forget, of course, tomorrow morning, Andy and myself on the Gong Report from 6 to 9 o'clock a.m., yes, on Talk City 91.1. Talk City 91.1. Yes, that is a TTT. Yeah, we are a TTT. So every morning I have to find myself there. I'm no longer in the station here or in the studio here. But of course, Andy is elsewhere. I am in studio, and I think we have a wonderful synergy and a wonderful program to share with you. These types that we just discussed will not be discussed there in the details that I have given tonight. But you have it. Share it. Share it, please. Please, please. And do not be misled by persons who clearly, for their own ambition, they are prepared, of course, to send these communities under the bus to a point of almost no return, save for people like myself who are prepared to make the necessary intervention. Without their support. Good night.
The whole population of our little nation is not a lot, but over a mixture of races and culture, that's what we've got. Still no major difference of race, color, religion, or finance. It's amazing to you, I'm sure, we didn't get independence before, which means Trinidad and Tobago will always live on. Colonialism gone. Our nation is born, everybody. We will follow our leader. It's reconstruction time in Trinidad, so put your shoulder to the wheel, men, lad, move on, don't stop till you reach the top. You put a hand and I put a hand and we will go big and go small in no time at all.
Who doing with that, boy? Who doing with that? All right, let me answer this one. Pastor, good night.
Good night, Lennox.
Hold on. Yes, let me just take off this. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that. I see I'm about to finish and somebody calling, but I had to take your call. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I've been calling you all the time and not getting you, man.
All right, okay, here what? I'll come by you tomorrow.
All right.
Right?
But, okay. Just call me and tell me and what time you're coming, I'll wait for you, right?
All right, okay, yeah. From studio tomorrow, from Top City, I'll come in straight by you.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
right.
going to be all around 9:30, 10 o'clock for the latest.
All right. And listen.
Go ahead.
You think you could help us with about 3 or 4 persons to work in the Savannah for the carnival?
I sent something to the authorities. I call it no name. And
all right.
I am optimistic. So we'll talk about it tomorrow.
All right, brother. So okay. No problem.
Yeah, okay then.
All right?
Yes.
So I'll look out for you.
Yes, no problem.
Yeah.
People, of course, that was Dr. Khalid, the man who has always been with me, and a stalwart, of course, in the mover area in particular. Of course, doing similar work all his adult life, just as I am, and choose to remain here and there. All right? But, of course, let's go back, of course, to the video where, of course, to identify those persons who have been responsible for the betrayal of Laventille East Port of Spain, the Diego Martins, Psilots, Chumacac, Belmont, Mova, etc., etc. I'm going to, of course, let me see if I could put it, large enough. I'm going to put it large enough. Yeah. So I'm going to put it large enough. There. Yes, indeed. And let me put the music to go with it. Yeah, I need to make people understand what they have done to us.
It's reconstruction time in Trinidad, so put your shoulder to the wheel, man, lad, move on, don't stop. Till you reach the top. You put a hand and I put a hand and we for big and for small in no time at all. There's no other way. Show your patriotic spirit, unity, sound in Trinidad, ever needed you is Trinidadians, one and all. Hear my plea, answer my call. The peace and happiness we had before was lost with everybody fighting war. Let's hope that so move on, upward, come on. You put a hand and I put a hand and we will see. In no time at all for big and now is the time to rebuild. Make up your mind to climb the hill. It's reconstruction time in Trinidad, so put your shoulder to the wheel, man, lad, move on, don't stop.